In Movies and Money, Hollywood is counting on audiences falling for new films at the box office. Our movie man, Erik Childress, is on the scene for us. Hello to you, Erik.
Hi, Angie.
In your fall movie preview, Erik, you suggested that The Woman King could be the film of the season. How did last weekend's numbers add up?
It's certainly a good start, Angie, especially as so many were lowballing it even after it grossed $1.7 million just on Thursday. Now, expectations were in the 13 to 16 million range, and it ended up grossing over $19 million. And when we look at films in September that have opened between 16 and 20 million, the average final gross has been about 55 million. Now, that is exactly the kind of number that theaters like to see in this fall transition period where blockbusters are at a bare minimum. Remember how often during the pandemic, as theaters began coming back, that 50 million was the line that few films outside of franchises were making, original films aimed at adults. Now, The Woman King also has an excellent chance of benefiting from great word of mouth. Critics are 95% for it on Rotten Tomatoes, and it got an A+ from those polled from CinemaScore, which, if history follows, could translate to a hearty multiple well over 3, which could put its final total over 60, maybe even 70 million. Now, just a quick look at the schedule suggests this film should also be hanging around in the top 10 until probably the end of October.
Overall, numbers at the box office are still down for September. How does this year compare with the recent years, even before the pandemic?
Well, from 2017 to 19, the overall September box office came close to $700 million, but those were boosted with some big hits, including the 2 Stephen King It movies, as well as horror film The Nun. And even last year, Marvel opened Shang-Chi, which grossed $200 million alone of the $367 million earned at the box office last September. Now, going back to 2008, there have been only 3 times that the 9th month has failed to produce at least one $100 million grosser, and one of those was the pandemic year of 2020. But from 2008 to 2019, those years have had, at the bare minimum, 3 films to gross at least $50 million. Now, these mid-range grossers are what have become more extinct since 2020, and so far this month, studios have not delivered many of these potential audience grabbers to theaters. The number 1 film from last week, Barbarian, looks like it will end up over $30 million, and it could end up being the 4th highest grossing film of the month. The Woman King is going to get over $50 million, and there is still some hope that we will see Bros at the end of the month achieve that, and possibly the one big new film this weekend. Again, just one new film that is opening this weekend that will make any noise in the final numbers. And the next one after that is another re-release of James Cameron's Avatar. Without that kind of Shang-Chi release, this year could see the lowest grossing September since 1997.
This week's big new release is Don't Worry, Darling. Here's a look.
What is the enemy of progress?
Chaos.
Yeah. Nasty word. Chaos.
The one thing they ask of us is to stay here, where it's safe.
Erik, this film comes with some drama off-screen, including director Olivia Wilde getting publicly served divorce papers on stage. Will this deter fans from seeing the film?
I doubt it, Angie. Moviegoers are not exactly offended by backstage drama, at least not in the kind of numbers that would truly affect attendance. No, they only care if the film looks interesting, it has people they want to see, and if they hear it is good. Now, the latter part may be a problem because reviews for Olivia Wilde's latest directorial effort, Don't Look Darling, is not drawing many positives. The film about a Stepford Wives-like utopia with Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, and Chris Pine was not met with a warm reception from critics out of the Venice Film Festival, and if you start with bad reviews out of a film festival whose headlines are now comically dominated by the length of standing ovations, you normally have nowhere to go but down. And Don't Worry, Darling currently sits in the lower 30s on Rotten Tomatoes, but may still draw enough interest to be number 1 this weekend. And the bad publicity it has received beyond the reviews is still publicity, so awareness is likely higher than it would have been, and I could see it pulling in 16 to 17 million, even if it may only need 12 to 13 million to take the top spot. Now, theaters, of course, would love to see Darling break into the 20s and will be crossing their fingers that The Woman King has a nice hold of about 11 million or higher.
Sounds good. Thank you, Erik.
Thank you, Angie.
Go to businessfirstam.com for where to see our show on TV.